And welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. We are now very excited to be joined by Stanford catcher Malcolm Moore. Malcolm, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So, Malcolm, as a catcher at Stanford, that just combination just screams a lot of responsibility.
That gets you. You
feel like there's a lot going on.
You get a lot of jobs right out of school with that.
Yes,
you know?
It's a great start to the resume. I mean, forget all what you're actually capable of on the baseball field, but catching is something that I am just eternally fascinated by, and that balance between how do I manage and learn. First of all, the physical demands of just squatting all the time and getting, taking foul tips and all that stuff. And then obviously a big reason why teams are so interested in you is you're not a bad hitter either. But when did your love for catching first begin? Well, before Stanford was on the radar, like how early was like, I want this to be my life as a baseball player?
Yeah. I think I was about like 11 years old. I always played like infield because that's just what you do in Little League, pitch, play infield. And then one day our catcher didn't show up for the game. So
what was that kid's name?
His name was Wyatt Judd, I think. Was
Wyatt Judd.
Wyatt changed. Okay, all right. So Wyatt doesn't show up.
Out.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I was like, okay, he wasn't gonna be there that weekend or something, and I was like, okay, can I use your catcher's gear this weekend because we need a catcher. So then I just put on his catcher's gear, used a random glove. I think in the first game ever, I threw two guys out at second base just because I was pretty athletic.
Yeah.
And then I just fell in love with it.
So
are we talking knee savers?
No, they didn't have knee savers, but I had some with Velcro straps on them. It was pretty funny.
So you're around 11, and basically you just volunteered. No one else wanted to, put on the gear that weekend, and you're like, all right, fine, I'll take one for the team. Now, but did you immediately enjoy it? I mean, clearly, as you mentioned, it seemed like you had a knack for it, that transition. But also, it's a lifestyle that I imagine not everyone wants to pursue.
You kind of have to hate yourself.
Yeah, did you immediately like it, or did that take a while before you actually embraced it as this is probably my best position?
No, I immediately liked it because I thought playing outfield was kind of boring. You kind of just stand around and do nothing. Yeah. Pitching was always fun because you're in the game, and I think. But I knew that I was a hitter. I wasn't a pitcher. So I think catching was the closest thing I could get to pitching, kind of in the game all the time.
We were talking about ADHD before we got on here. Me as an ADHD first ballot Hall of Famer. And as a kid, I loved catching because you have to pay attention all the time.
Right.
Your focus.
You don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. You are involved in every play. And when you're a kid, the biggest issue with baseball, I coach Little League, the way we lose kids is because they are getting bored. There's not enough action. And when you're the catcher, you have to pay attention. You do not have another choice, or else you're going to get conked in the head with a baseball. So as you're going through Little League and as you move into high school and you start to catch, when you are in you're calling pitches in high school.
Yeah.
I assume you're not calling pitches in college.
Not all the time, no.
Do you miss that? Do you miss the experience of calling a game?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a great part of the game that's kind of fun. It just adds another aspect where you're kind of just dissecting the hitter. You're looking at what the pitcher's throwing well, and you kind of get to sequence guys. I really enjoy that part, and I look forward to doing that in the future.
How has your mound visit game evolved over the years? Because obviously, a mound visit at age 11 is probably different than at age 21. I don't know when you really learn that skill because especially when you're younger, the coaches are coming out and telling you hey buddy, throw strikes. Now that happens in college too, but I'm curious how you learn that skill in terms of keeping your guys calm and obviously you have a relationship with a lot, especially in college. These are some of your closest friends.
Yeah, I think I learned that probably middle school, high school. Okay. I think I was I never really understood it because I was okay, you're gonna go out there and just talk to them about pitching, right? And then I was actually playing some tournament at Oregon State, and Garrett Forster was on our team. He played at Oregon State, and he came up to the mound, and I'm catching. And he brought us off, and he was older. We were playing on a younger. He's playing in
the infield.
Yeah, he was playing in first base.
Yep.
I was catching, and he came in, and there was a bunch of younger guys. He was playing because we were playing up with his brother was on our team, and he comes up to the mound and tells the pitcher a joke, kind of just makes him laugh, and I'm shit, that's kind of funny.
I love that.
So then I started to do that a little bit because guys were they would get sped up out there. And
right, the point of a mound visit, if you're the catcher, is not always to identify some mechanical issue.
Yeah.
I think fans maybe think that that's the case because pitching coaches are okay, you're get more on your backside. Your job mostly is to get that guy's heart rate down.
Yeah. it's just like when the coach comes out, it's more like, okay, how are we going to attack these hitters?
Right.
But when I go out, it's more, okay, like, what am I going to say to him right here that, like, is just a funny thing off the field that, like, I can bring this guy back to just, like, being himself.
Right.
I think, like, there's a lot of stuff that, like, I do, like, we had this one kid on our team, Aiden Keenan, and he had a tattoo on his, like, bicep that says, "Stay humble." And so I would always, like, off the field, I was always like, "Ayo, AK, stay humble." So I would go out there, like, I think he was pitching at Texas Tech, and, like, he's pretty sped up because he's a freshman, and, like, I could kind of
This is
notice.
during the Super?
No, this is
okay.
this year,
Okay.
and we're just playing like a midweek at Texas Tech, but they packed it out pretty well.
Yeah.
And he's starting, and like I could tell he was a little sped up, so I'm like pointing to my bicep a bunch, and I like went out there. I was like, "Hey, bro, you need to stay humble." I went out there and like said that to him, and he started laughing. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I thought you were talking about like the pitch calm on my wrist." Like, yeah, no, but that kind of stuff, just like to slow them down, is pretty important.
What are the other again, there's so many nuances to catching, and there's the physical aspect, right? Okay, we're talking about framing, we're talking about blocking, we're talking about controlling the running game. Like, there's so many things you have to think about. What is the most challenging? Because I think that, again, you just think about what you're all managing just mentally and
It's like
physically.
2 jobs.
But it's 2 jobs. We'll get to the hitting here in a little bit. But what is the hardest thing, and what is something, especially as you look forward to pro ball, that you're looking forward to all continuing to improve at from a catching perspective?
I think the most challenging thing that like a young catcher going to like college baseball and professional baseball is just controlling a staff. I think that's a hard part, and that's kind of like the most important thing I think for catching. And then also just being tired. Like you're gonna play the majority of your games a little tired.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be like, that's a fact, and it's kind of something that you can't carry on if you're tired to hitting, and if you're hitting like tired carrying on to catching.
Right, and I've spent a lot of time last couple of years around the Phillies because I live in New York and they're really good. And I've developed this immense appreciation for Real Muto, for JT Real Muto, because I believe that if he was a left fielder, he would hit like 45 home runs a year. Like, I think he's just one of the best athletes in baseball, but you can see that he is sacrificing something at the plate just because he's catching 130 games a season. Now, what I'm really curious about is the mental component of that.
Yeah.
To know that you could be better at catching if you didn't hit, and that you could be better at hitting if you didn't catch, right? And like, you, correct me if I'm wrong, you have not really gotten to that point yet just because you're not catching enough games over the course of a long season and you have more off days. But like, how do you anticipate balancing those two things as you move forward in your pro career?
Last year, my freshman year, I kind of felt that a little bit towards the end of the year. Like, I kind of went through a stretch where my body was just fatigued. My numbers in the weight room were going down. I was losing weight. And, like, it does affect you. Like, I kind of realized, that was my first time realizing. I was like, dude, I don't know. My legs hurt so bad. I don't know I'm supposed to hit. Like, but then, like, you kind of realize, like, okay, like, that's going to be one thing. But I honestly like the challenge where I know that I can add so much to a team by just being a catcher and kind of being there with the pitchers, and I feel like I can help them throw strikes and kind of help us win games that way. So I think it's an awesome like experience that I can help on both sides, and I think it's a challenge, but I'm willing to take that challenge.
And that's what I think why teams are so interested in you, because there are a lot of catchers, and you see this in the high school level where it's like, all right, but I really like him as a hitter, so it's not really worth it to keep him as a catcher. For you, there's no question. It's like, he's a catcher, but now it's on you to figure out how to do both things. I'm really curious about your offense this season, because especially early in the year, that batting average wasn't pretty, right? But you were also drawing a ridiculous amount of walks. And so it was easy to look at it at a glance, like, oh, Malcolm Moore's, he's not the same. I have to imagine there was a lot of bad batted ball luck. How did you manage that? Because you realize, okay, I'm still bringing a lot of value defensively, but when you see, especially in this environment of college baseball where the offensive numbers are outrageous.
You just have to bunt it. It goes over the fence.
How did you kind of manage that? And then clearly by the end of the season, it started to pick up in a really real way.
Yeah, I think it was definitely tough. I mean, last year we had a bunch of dogs in our lineup. It was like I was hitting in front of the Pac-12 Player of the Year and behind Braden Montgomery.
Yes.
So that was definitely something I had to get used to. And like, I was hitting the ball hard, and I don't know. There's like, I saw a stat yesterday. It's like I had like the worst like luck.
Yeah.
And like all of
the
college
BABIP
baseball.
Gons were not on Malcolm's side
No,
this
I
year.
looked
It was like kind of and the stat line even by the end of the season is like kind of ridiculous because
Yeah.
it's like a OBP over 400 and a batting average, which again in this environment of college baseball looks really low.
Yeah.
But you felt that. You felt like you were hitting balls hard and eventually you would be rewarded.
Yeah, I knew that I was hitting balls hard. Like I looked at like last night, I was looking at it's like a StatCast. It shows
Yeah.
like where you hit balls, like and how it should have been, and like
Expected.
like and I looked at it and it
numbers,
was like there was like 6 or 7 balls that were home runs, and it's like if I had better luck, we were playing in a park that was
park,
maybe in
right.
the SEC or like
Yep.
flew better. It's like you change that stat line, you add 6 more homers, you add a couple more hits. It's like 22 home runs, hitting
It's like
300.
Oh my
310.
god, right? It's like 100 points of OPS, which
Yeah.
is like ridiculous if we're just talking about a handful of batted balls.
Yeah.
So you understood that and it felt that in the moment, and it feels
Yeah,
like that
it
helped.
definitely like it was tough because like
Yeah.
you look up on the scoreboard and like everybody just knows batting average.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like shit. Like
Yeah.
you kind of just see that, but like at the same time, like I knew that I was a good hitter.
Yeah.
And I never really had any like I never wavered from
Let's
that.
Yeah.
talk about what you look like as a hitter, and we're gonna
Yeah.
watch some old video.
Malcolm Moore, why do you do that?
Yeah,
I
okay,
mean, like,
so
I'm sure every team is asking this
Yeah.
when you meet with them. They're like, why do you do that? Do you want to change that? Would you let us change that? And I guess let's just ask them
what are we referring to? For those of you, again, there are probably a lot of people listening to this who maybe have not watched Malcolm Moore hit, but it is a unique stance. Very simply.
describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Paint
how
us
would you
a
describe it to
physical
someone?
picture.
So
Yeah.
so I load pretty early. I have like some toe taps.
You're pretty upright.
I'm pretty upright. I'm pretty open. There was like some changes in high school and college. I guess we could watch. This is
Yeah. So here, 1 second, Sid. Pause it. I mean, I want to talk about this home run, but before we get, because this obviously doesn't show.
That's more like a
can you just put
2
it?
strikes
Yeah, I
swing.
was going to say this is, and also obviously we want to be able to see it from the front, which I know we don't have video for that now. So
Yeah.
hold it right here, and I'll tell you when to run it. Okay, so we're just going to reset here in 1 second. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So again, if you could explain what your stance is, right? And
Yeah.
we'll watch a little bit of high school footage here in a second. But when you're watching on TV, what is unique about it?
I mean, I load pretty early. That's kind of just like what I do, and it's kind of evolved into like some toe taps. I've done that my whole life. If you actually like, if we had video of like me back in like middle school and little league, you'd be like, what is going on? Like, I started with my hands were like in front of my right shoulder, so I started like my.
So you're a lefty.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
just for people to know.
so my hands would start like out here in front of my right shoulder, and I would
then
like.
really bring them back.
And I would like start the toe tap
Almost like a slow pitch softball,
Yes.
like really cranking it up.
And I cannot tell you how many people told me I needed to change it. Like every single coach that I would go to, every time I would go hit anywhere, they would always tell me to change it. And I was like, no.
No,
Like,
it's working.
Yeah, it's working.
It's working, right?
Yeah.
But the main thing is that especially when you look on the regular broadcast angle, is it's very upright and it's very open. Now it feels like this year it's sort of slightly closed a little bit, but certainly if you watch highlights from freshman year, when you tune into before the pitcher really goes into his delivery, you are very upright and you are very open from the left side.
It's right on the line of tweeting a picture of it and being like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not.
It's not Tony Batista. But it's like
It's not that kid from Coastal Carolina. The kid
Wow.
from Coastal who was like sitting down when he was swinging.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're not quite there, but
Yes.
it's certainly something where my fiance, who's not super into baseball,
like,
would be
"That's different."
What the heck is that guy doing?
Yeah. In the regional last year against Texas A&M, like, I had like a homer, and then like my next at bat, I like pimped it, and it got robbed at the warning track. And there's this TikTok video. This guy's like just like completely crapping on my swing. Like he's like, "What is this guy doing? Who does he think he is?" Like all these toe taps, and then I hit a ball. He's like, "Oh my gosh!" And like he like looks at it. It was pretty funny, and that kind of just like. They sent like a bunch of guys, older guys on our team, like sent that in our team group chat, and they were just like kind of laughing at it. And
Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of the start of it.
So I'm so interested in the balance that a weird stance guy has to have, because you say that all these people tried to get you to change it, right? And that is rational. Like I said, I coach Little League. If I had a kid who was swinging like you and they were 11 years old, I would tell them not to do that,
Yeah.
right? At the same time, you know that there are coaches who know more about hitting than you do, right? Coaches who can help you, coaches who can improve certain things of your swing. How do you balance between having the faith in yourself and the confidence in yourself and your own ability, your own mechanics, or also like leaving room for people to assist you to improve?
Yeah, I think that like I've always just hit by myself. So I think that I know more about my body at this point in time than anybody I've worked with.
So like even though there are other people who are like hitting experts, you are a Malcolm Moore expert.
Yes. I think that I'm like, I know myself. I know like, because I've just always hit by myself. And it kind of like, honestly, it took me some time to like, because I've always just had people tell me no, like that's not how you're supposed to do it. So it took me a little bit of time to like, all right, like I can listen to a few things. I can talk through some things. Like it doesn't always just have to be like, okay, I have to do this on my own, because at the end of the day, like if you try to do that, it's just, that doesn't work. You need to actually like work with people and kind of do what they need to do and kind of just like kind of work together, because two minds is better than one. But at the same time, like I know what like the core things are that work for me and like how I need to move. And like I can't even describe it. I don't even know how I would, but like I just know what is right.
Yeah. All right, so let's watch this clip here. We're gonna run this a few times. This is I believe a home run from the summer of 2020, and we've watched some old video of some college guys and kind of reflecting back on what is different. What is different between the Malcolm Moore that is obviously crushing a ball here and had a lot of success, certainly a lot of success in high school and have a lot of success in college. When you watch this, what do you think? Other than, damn, I crushed it.
Yeah, no, that's one of my favorite swings. I probably watched that too many times, but this is like a two-strike approach. I remember this day was like the craziest day of baseball I've ever had. Like I had a walk-off like ground rule double at this park that was massive. It was like 350 down the lines, and so I had a walk-off ground rule double. We played at like 8 o'clock because of those perfect game tournaments.
Right,
and then I had like a homer in the earlier game, and then this was like the night game. Like, if we won, we went to like the championship or semifinal the next day. And this at bat was like, I had a double earlier in the game. And this at bat was super long at bat. I think I fouled off like 6 sliders, and then he just threw me a slider right here, and I put it right off the light tower, and it kind of bounced off the light tower, came back. It was one of the cooler things.
At the end of a day that started at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Right.
That's like a movie.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No, and it's just like if I could compare this day to anything like from this year, I'd say like I had a 3-homer game against Oregon, and the feeling was the same. It was kind of just like the same kind of thing.
It's like flow state.
Yeah, it's just I go up there like against Oregon. I was going up there and I'm like, I'm either gonna walk or I'm gonna hit a homer.
Yeah,
like that's
which by the way, that kind of sums up your season this year.
Yeah, a little bit. There were some times where like I'd be like, I only had 3 hits this weekend, but I had 3 homers.
Right,
like,
that's
and
right.
I walked 5 times.
Yeah.
It's like,
okay.
I guess that's not the worst.
It was a very kind of, not 3 strikeouts because you weren't striking out very much, right? But that's kind of, and a lot of because of the nature of the lineup, which was very different from last season. But you were able to capitalize. But when you think back there, like, what is different? I mean, this is obviously a great swing. I mean, this is what you want it to look like. How does this best swing compare to your best swing now? Is it similar?
I think it's like, because I'm just kind of delusional probably.
Yeah.
I think that my swing is pretty similar to this. Like
Sure.
I haven't really changed much. Like I haven't really gone through like big swing changes, kind of just changing little things. So I think like all the core things are kind of the same. Like I think this is like like a different like 2-strike approach where I kind of don't really toe tap. It's kind of just more like I look like similar to like how Shohei uses his feet. Kind of I started like this summer. I just like the summer of this video, I started just like doing that no strike with 2 strikes and found success with it. So I just kind of used it and kind of.
But this is really, I mean, this is the summer before your junior year, I think,
summer
right?
for my junior year.
So this is early, but this is also this is the summer where everyone's like, oh, we know who Malcolm Moore is now.
Yeah, that's pretty much
because of days like this.
Yeah.
So what I'm most interested in when I watch this video, as someone who likes to think about hitting, is your hands. Because when hitters load, usually it's somewhat of a rubber band effect, right? You're pulling your back arm kind of back in space like you would pull a bow and arrow or a rubber band, and then you're snapping that forward through the hitting zone. Your hands are, in a way, creeping forward slowly right before you're about to explode. And that is very odd because you would imagine, like, for people at home, think about punching someone or something, right? When you punch, you pull your arm back and you explode forward in one motion. What you're kind of doing is you're pulling your arm back and you're moving forward slowly, and then bam, then you're going. So talk to me about the way, right here, go, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I feel like I don't really feel like that is what's
Okay.
going on. But it feels like I kind of move back at the end, so it's kind of like my body's moving forward and kind of everything's kind of just moving
interesting.
together, and then like it kind of just moves back, and I kind of get that stretch and kind of fire.
So
it's
you,
kinda
when
like,
you do that, like your hands are staying in space and your body's moving forward.
yeah, so I feel like a stretch there a little. Like it doesn't feel like that to me.
Right. So you are feeling that rubber band effect, that stretch, that
Yeah.
shoulder separation right before you move forward. Interesting.
The last mechanical thing I want to ask is we've kind of alluded to the walks, right? And
Yeah.
pitch recognition is obviously a strength of yours. And sure, there's situations where people are pitching around you, but how do you feel like your stance and your, especially up from an open side, lets you recognize pitches, and how has that skill kind of developed as you've climbed the ladder?
Yeah, the main reason for like opening up and kind of having that open stance is so I can have both eyes on the pitcher, and so that's kind of what I do. Is like if I was struggling, like I remember in the fall I was talking to like some older guys on our team, like okay, like if I'm struggling, I'm just gonna look at the pitcher better. Like I'm gonna look, like have a
I'm gonna
more
use both my eyes.
yeah, I have a clear look. So that's kind of what I did, and I would like an external cue of like keeping my shoulder aligned with the foul line, like
Your
because
front shoulder.
yeah, my front shoulder aligned with the foul line because it kind of set up that stretch, and it kind of like gave me a baseline of where to be. Yeah.
And it seems like that. No, because like that's very intuitive. It's like, yeah, you are very much head on, whereas normally, right, it's more of the side. That's what most. So that tracks. I mean, that's certainly what it looks like you're doing.
Yeah.
Is getting as good of an open look. as
Sometimes
you
it
can.
was like a little scary. Like we had a couple guys last year who like they were pretty wild, and like I'm facing them like this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like he could like he's a lefty and he
Yeah,
missed his
oh,
arm
for
side,
sure.
and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
He's going to take it in the tummy.
Like I'm either gonna take it right in the face or I'm gonna
Right.
take it right in the chest.
Yeah,
Like,
because you're that open.
yeah, no, that's how it felt sometimes, but like it felt more comfortable like that.
Yeah. One or two more questions. This is kind of pivoting a little bit. What do you suck at? Because, you know, you go to Stanford, you're very well spoken, you are good at baseball. What are you bad at, like, in the world? Is there something that, like, I can't ice skate, Jordan can't really cook, respectfully?
No, it's true.
Like, is there something that you struggle with that's, like, relative minutia?
I don't know. My brother will always like tell me that I suck at basketball.
Okay.
But I'm actually like decent at basketball. I think I'm good at basketball, but
Why does he say that though?
because he's 6'4", played basketball in high school.
Okay. So
congrats to him.
he's just this is where he feels like he really has the edge.
No,
on you, yeah.
like so he always like will tell me like he'll be like, "You're short," because like I'm like 6'2", he's 6'4". It's like I can't say anything back to him.
can't.
I'll say
He's
you're
right.
skinny. Like that's not.
Yeah, you can't hit.
No, yeah.
Well,
exactly.
defend your basketball game here.
Yeah,
Okay, I think I'm like a similar player like Draymond Green.
yeah.
Like which
Enforcer.
surprising.
Can't
like,
shoot.
I can shoot, but it's
I believe
not
he's
pretty.
the second person who has sat in that chair and compared their basketball skills
Yeah.
to Draymond Green.
Really?
Who was
Yeah.
in here yesterday who compared themselves to Draymond Green?
Who did that?
We
I'm
talked to like
forgetting.
25 players yesterday, and it's all running together. But someone sat in this chair and was like, "Oh, it was Brody Brecht. Brody Brecht.
Brody Brecht.
Thank you. Brody Brecht sat. in
He's
this chair.
tall too.
Yeah, no, he is tall.
But he's like, yeah,
Nah.
I'm getting down there, and
Yeah.
we're making sure the other team is understanding who's in charge here.
No, I'm getting the boards, and like that actually wasn't even my like kind of comp. Like we have these things called team talks where like we'll ask guys on our team questions, and they'll run us through a bunch of stuff. And Joey Volchko actually
Oh,
gave me that
freshman, yeah.
comparison. He said because we played basketball a couple of times, and he was like, he was asked like, okay, who's in your starting five on the team? And he put me in there, and I was pretty happy about it. And he's like, everybody on the team was like, whoa, and like, no, like Malcolm can't be good at basketball. And I'm like, come on, dude, like you don't really know, like.
He does
and
the
then
little things.
He's like, yeah, he's Draymond Green comp. So
Well,
Less violent.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, despite your passion for offensive rebounding and defense, basketball not in your future. Baseball, of course, you're here at the MLB Draft Combine. My final question: just looking ahead, pro career, hopefully, getting started soon. What are you most excited about? As a catcher, there's so many parts of the game. I'm sure you're curious about what it looks like at the pro level. But when you think about what it's like to be a pro baseball player, what are you most curious and excited about?
yeah, I think I'm excited for the challenges that come. Something like not really kind of surrounding baseball, but like kind of not is learning Spanish.
Ooh, interesting.
I honestly like I've taken Spanish in high school, and like I've just learned from a lot of guys that, like, there's a bunch of Dominican guys.
Yeah.
You kind of
Yep.
sometimes,
Especially as a catcher, man.
Yeah,
That
I think-
is- those mound visits, it might be nice.
like,
Yeah.
we have Rentaro Sasaki on our team,
Yeah.
so I've kind of, like, learned specific phrases in, like,
In Japanese.
the
yeah, wow.
Japanese, but, like, surface level. Like,
Sure.
But he knows much more English than I do. But I'm looking forward to just, like, kind of learning Spanish and kind of doing that. Because I was talking to a team yesterday, and they were talking about Quinn Matthews and how he's bilingual now. Because he
on brand.
told his roommate, and he's like, "Don't speak to me in English, like, speak to me in Spanish only." And I'm like, I wouldn't put it past him.
Well, especially for you as a catcher, like, so much of the job is establishing trust, right? Getting the pitcher to believe in the two of you as a unit. And in establishing trust, literally meeting someone linguistically where they're at is a huge way to do that. I mean, there are a number of guys in the big leagues now, gringos, who have learned Spanish. Like Alex Bregman comes to mind,
Yeah.
right? The relationships that he was able to develop with the Spanish-speaking players on the Astros because he was willing to learn Spanish, that's huge. I mean, that's a huge, huge deal. So kudos to you.
Yeah. Good answer.
Get this guy some Rosetta Stone.
Yeah, I'm sure he will have the resources available to learn Spanish and a lot of teammates to practice with. Boy, I mean, you mentioned Rentaro Sasaki and Quinn Matthews. I could do whole podcasts on those with you, but we will respect your time, and we appreciate those shout outs. We appreciate the insight. And Malcolm Moore, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been great.